Where is the Magister?
He is unable to receive visitors, Legate.
You're that legionary from the Battle of Meshan.
Correct, sir. Now you must go.
What? I don't take orders from you, war hero. Out of my way. Magister! Septimus! What's going on?
Quintus, I'm sorry.
What's all this?
No, don't tell me. Pox, and more pox. The equalizer in death, isn't it? Not sure who I got it from. Could have been half the people I met these last few weeks. This is impossible. Not by Mars's will can this be happening. I came to tell you that I have defeated the Sassanid main force. Put a sword to their throats, and this is over. It's already over for me. No, Magister, you will survive this. You would not have made it to this point to fall now. Haven't you read the tales of the gods, Quintus? This is exactly the sort of thing that entertains them. If the work of war is done, then I am done. That is Mars's will indeed. But there is still work that must be done on my behalf.
Anything, Magister.
My son, Eutropius. He managed to claim victory in the war with the barbarians. It is impossible that he could have achieved this, Quintus. Someone is using him. Those armies led by senators and the cabal of Rome, they have puppeted my boy to use his power as my heir to their own gain.
What shall I do, Magister?
The office cannot be corrupted. The Magister must have absolute power to keep Rome safe. You must return to Italy and save Rome from the toy Magister the Senate will make of my boy. He must not hold office. He cannot. Only you can.
Are you asking me to kill him?
I am asking you to do anything to save Rome. And I am telling you to work out how to do it for yourself. That is your right. That will be your right from now on. I name you as the inheritor of my title. You are Magister now.
That's... you... Sir, I don't know what to say.
Say nothing. Do everything. Bend the Sassanids to your will. Cut the strings that pull the Empire apart. Don't stop fighting until there is nothing left to fight for. Just be yourself, Quintus. Relieve me of the burden of this empire for these final days. Hello there and welcome back to Fields of Mars. In the previous part we were attacking Sassanid territories, taking all but one of them, including a little bit of a city assault for Septimus that went particularly well. We got a peace treaty with the Alamans. This removes a major threat of invasion from the north, and we even ended the war having taken some territory from them. We used the peace to finish off our unification of Italy at last by taking territory from the Caucasian separatists, and finally we saw Varus destroying what's left of the Sassanid military, so now we're in position to finish them off once and for all. We're going to have to contend with the fact, though, that Septimus, as we learned, suddenly died of natural causes, robbing us of some of our momentum. Plus, Varus, our now senior commander on the front line, has had most of his movement points taken away by agent action, so we actually can't reach the Sassanid final settlement right now, which is very, very annoying. What we can do is push towards it, although by attacking the enemy armies that were in the way, or the remnants of enemy armies really, some of them moved to actually be nearer to the settlement, so we might end up having to fight them again, which wasn't what I hoped for. What I tried to do was take Septimus's army, now led by the other Septimus, Septimus Pollio, his nephew, to come and besiege the settlement. This will just prevent them from building things. That's my main objective. They can't recruit new troops now, and hopefully that will keep them super weak, so that next turn, even if our movement points are sapped again, we'll eventually be able to kill all these weakened armies and get the job done. Unfortunately, they just came back and attacked Septimus Pollio, and now he's going to have to get out of there. Fortunately, he was able to escape. They didn't chase him and will just sit in the corner, so that means they will be able to recruit new units now. Hopefully not too many of them, and we'll still be able to overcome them. Now it's time for a traditional getting one of our settlements on the border sacked. I can't even remember what faction it was this time. This just happens all the time. So there's another case, and once again the AI refusing to actually take territory from us. They just want to take our money and then go home. We'll be able to kill that guy a little bit later on with ease. Now, our other Septimus has a problem. I suppose I'll call him Septimus the Younger to keep with our tradition in this series. He gets attacked by Macran, but the armies weren't very powerful, so I thought let's just auto-resolve that one. That wouldn't be a terribly interesting battle. The result wasn't all that good, probably because we have such a low-level commander leading our men, but if we can finish off the Sassanids very soon, we should be able to avoid further fighting, and that won't be too much of a problem. So here we are. In the next turn, we are ready to go. What I'm going to start off with is a siege from Septimus the Younger, going to come in and just block off the army inside the settlement and the garrison from helping the smaller armies outside. That means that Varus can now start cleaning house and just go after these guys. We want to either kill them or drive them away so they're not in reinforcement range of the settlement. There's a lot of them to do it to, so fortunately we do have all our movement points, otherwise this will be a bit hard. So that was a good result there, one army just running into the next region. This army is already retreated, so we can just quickly auto-resolve it away, although I do really struggle to click on that night attack button there. Not sure if night attack actually affects auto-resolve, so I like to believe that it does. It should give you a small advantage, but maybe not, and it's hard to notice anyway. We do lose a full unit there, which was annoying. They're not going to be enough to stop us right now. So we move on for that final attack, and they run away out of reinforcement range of the settlement, so that looks good. All that's left is to see what the final situation is, and it is absolutely ideal. Almost no strength left for the enemy. Their army inside wasn't very good, and the garrison's going to be mostly pagan banned. So let's just kill them. Doesn't even matter what we lose, and we don't actually lose any full units, so that's good news as well. Now we're going to take the subjugate option. We're not going to destroy the Sassanids, because by subjugating them, it also subjugates their puppet states to us, and they become our puppet state. So with that, all of a sudden, many regions nearby will stop being hostile to us and instead be forced to join our wars, effectively working for us. There are still more enemies out there to face, but overall, the situation in the east has been completely reversed. Here's the picture on the tactical map, the blue area being our allies or puppet states. We have almost absolute control over the eastern part of the map, and the same can be said in the west. Only the Alamans and the Garamantians really stand as a threat against us. The Empire is looking very whole right now.
You are all lucky. Lucky! We had the will and the means to kill you, and you, all of you. But we were merciful. Despite all the lives you have taken, the lives you wasted, the world you almost destroyed, we are merciful. We are not like your old masters. We are the future. You have this chance to be with us in the new world. No longer shall there be a Shah, no kings of the East, only the kings of the Empire, kings of all the world, highest of high kings. You will bow to the only men who sit in the shadows of the gods, and should you bow low enough, you will receive their grace. You can start by bowing to me, for I am Magister Militum of the Roman Empire, commander of all men from India to Britannia. Serve me well, and erase the stains your crimes have left upon the world.
With so many factions now taken out of the picture in terms of our eastern wars, we just need to focus on those that remain here, annihilating those forces that came to raid us at Nisibis. Hopefully this will now be the last time we have to deal with this. We might be able to secure complete peace. What I wanted to do was go around all the factions we were still at war with and see if they wanted to end the wars now that we were so dominant in the area, and the answer was that they all did. We managed to get tons of peace deals and tons of money, so we're now actually completely at peace in the east. We're only now at war with the Garamantians in Africa and Hispania, a separatist faction also in Africa, another Roman-style faction. Neither of these two factions is interested in peace, so we haven't quite got a Pax Romana yet, but neither of them pose an enormous threat right now. We should be able to take them down if we actually want to. What I'm going to focus on, though, is a little project from Eutropius the Younger, our new official faction leader. He's looking to the west, where the Angles appear to be doing some damage to the Western Roman Empire. They've already taken a major settlement, and they've got more armies standing around, one of which is very beaten up, so clearly some fighting's been going on here. So this is a chance for us to continue to lord it up over the Western Roman Empire by saving them to demonstrate that they couldn't save themselves. So I'm going to join their war against the Angles, get some money off them. I'm also going to marry into their imperial family a little bit, just to closen our ties. So that's all well and good. With that sorted, we can immediately go on the offensive, since I've already prepared to make this attack. Eutropius will lead with his elite army, a full-strength legionary stack that should be super powerful, especially against the Angles. They don't have like the Germanic spearmaster stacks that the Alamans bring to the table. They mostly have the Nordic spear unit, which is vastly inferior. So we could have attacked that place just with Eutropius, but I'm actually going to bring up all of our Senate forces just to back things up, lots of auxiliaries. We actually can't auto-resolve this, even though it's super far in our favour, because we have no siege equipment, so we don't have an option to fight at all. So I am going to have to leave that for a turn. That will give the Angles a chance, if they want, to counterattack with their other units. I'm also going to bring Vitellus down, just to see what the hubbub is about. He may not be so interested in actually taking part in the fight, because the Angles are actually Christian. They're Roman Christians as well, so perhaps he is just going to take a look and make sure nothing too heinous happens to them. They don't send any of their armies to help at the siege. Instead, they seem to move most of their troops north, perhaps going back towards their own home territory, or perhaps going to attack one of our undefended territories. They certainly could do that, with all of our men now taking part in this siege. At least the siege will be over very quickly for us. We'll just storm in. The army inside was trapped and easily annihilated, same for the garrison. Virtually no losses on our side. I can liberate a faction here, so I'll do that. I'm going to make Septimania, a new small Roman faction, just to hold this place, since we have no regions in the province and are unlikely to get any more in the near future. So we'll just leave them guarding it for us, and we'll move right on to pursue the Angles. It would be nice to kill them while they're still in the Western Roman Empire's territory, to maximise the extent to which we'll be showing them up and showing our dominance for saving them from this invasion. Unfortunately, we can't reach those two armies over there right now, so we'll just have to get near them and see what happens. They continue moving north, perhaps going towards Lugdunum. They could take it from us right now. We learn that the Quadians are under attack from the Huns, and I have the option to enter the war on their side. I'm going to take it, so we're now once again at war with the Huns, but I know the Huns don't have much left, so I don't think that actually means very much at this point. Then we get a surprise attack. Hispania, who I assumed would just ignore us, actually did have an army wandering around the Mediterranean, and it comes over to attack Palma. This is the sort of fight we used to see quite a lot much earlier in the campaign. A relatively easy defense, even though they have the advantage on the balance bar. We'll have every other advantage, and we can use our scout equites to just annihilate entire units very quickly. So this is just pretty much the end of the battle. Their first wave of troops was just defeated by grinding against our guys, and they're leaving since their general died and they lost their morale, and our cav just comes in to wipe out everything that's left, and that's going to cause chain routes. So there we go, very easily defeated that army from Hispania, and as I said, not a particularly impressive battle or important battle, so we'll just skip over that. The main thing that came of it was the fact that I did get a peace treaty with Hispania as a result of that win, so that's one more thing off our minds, I suppose. Now, here in the east, Varys is going to start a journey going all the way back to the west, slowed right now by the fact his men are diseased, but hopefully that will wear off before we get there, so he can just try and walk it off, I suppose, because it's a very long way. He's going to take a large number of turns to reach the western front, but once he gets there, he will hopefully be able to sort out the matter of who exactly it is who's meant to be leading this empire that's now really coming together. In Iberia, we managed to catch up with one of the Anglo armies, and it's the one that was in really bad condition, so we just stamp it down. Most of our losses on this little bit of the campaign were just due to walking through attrition zones to actually find the enemy, so that was annoying, but we got what we wanted, a nice victory in the heartland of the Western Roman Empire. As for our other little pursuit, I ended up just stopping. I didn't want to walk all these armies through all the attrition we'd need to take to pursue the Angles, so we'll just sit back and see what they do. This land is almost lawless, don't you think? Vast tracts of perfectly good territory still ran by cultists. Going to be very, very hard for them to argue that we aren't leading by example. Very hard indeed. Things need to change. No more of this quasi-independent rubbish. We need proper order established over Gaul and Iberia, same as anywhere else, undeniably. We can't be having a Magister Militum and an Emperor out here, can we? And certainly not two Magister Militae, as rumour has it to be the case. Yes, father forgot who his son was after all these years. I'm glad the rest of you understand the nature of lineage. Quite easy, really, but in these modern times that doesn't count for anything. Nothing at all, in fact. One of my allies, Lazica, attacks another of my allies, Pontus, and I have to decide which one, if any, I'm going to side with. I'm going to go with Pontus here because they are a Roman faction, and in fact I think I created them much earlier in the campaign, so we want to increase our unity with our fellow Roman states. This does mean I'm going to be attacked immediately by Lazica. They send a fleet towards Trapezos, but it doesn't make an attack for now, it just puts it under blockade. We can deal with that later. We've got a much bigger issue brewing right now. Atropatane are attacking us for some reason. They're meant to be our puppet states, aren't they? So it seems they have betrayed us, and that means we have another one of these situations. It's going to be another classic sacking. Still not losing any territory on our border. That's good, but not really developing it either because it gets all of its stuff stolen on such a regular basis. So that was that, and then there were more hostile factions coming up. It seems that there's been a little bit of a rebellion, and you can see in the background there that the Sassanids themselves are breaking their puppet state agreement with us. We'll look at that in a second. First, more bad news. It seems Varus is trying to assassinate Septimus the Younger, perhaps jealous that he didn't get Septimus the Elder's troops after he died. I'm not sure. We have the option, though, to tell Septimus the Younger what's going on. It seems Eutropius the Younger knows about this, so we can prepare him to reduce the probability of anything bad happening because of all that drama. But now, the much bigger issue, here we get the confirmation that our puppet states have, almost as soon as they joined us, decided to leave us. And because leaving your master as a puppet state starts a war, we're now back at war with pretty much everyone in the east. There was one state that didn't break the agreement, so I think that leaves us with one region on our side, but it's going to be surrounded by enemies and have a difficult time in this conflict. Not looking good. So I guess this was to be expected. We can't trust these states to be on our side after such a gigantic war, especially with the Sassanids still alive to rally them against us. So we're going to have to deal with that very soon. And Lazica, of course, who may invade us from the northeast. So Varus is in position to deal with that Atropatane army, so he can just take it as he continues heading to the northwest, getting to the roads to head back to Europe. His army is slowly dying of disease as well, so it would be a good idea to take him off the front line for a bit anyway. So this will help out in that regard. The Atropatane force retreated, so we'll just leave it. We'll keep moving away. And we do have Costa, Varus' old teammate, in position to defend this part of the border now with inferior troops, but hopefully it will be enough to stop that damaged army from doing any more harm. One more development that's happened that perhaps shouldn't be overshadowed by all this is the fact that we have now finished researching Hereditary Monarchy. This gives us tons of bonuses, passive buffs on the civil side of things across the Empire, and means that Eutropius the Younger is now the official ruler of our Empire because he has inherited power from Septimus, so Varys' claim to power is reduced by this development. We'll see if he can stake claim otherwise in the future. I need to move Anicius the Younger to the east, ready to defend against Sassanid invasions, and ideally we want to just strike them down as quickly as possible to get rid of them, take out the ringleaders in this little rebellion. They've recruited tons of stuff. It seems all they did was be at peace with us for 2 or 3 turns to get their armies back, and they're now right back into the action. So we'll see what we can do against them. There is one early blow we can strike, and that is to have Septimus the Younger go after a Sassanid army that was hanging around near him. So we'll do that, taking a bit of attrition unfortunately, but at least it's going to be a symbolic victory to take out this small force, and it may stop it from raiding, so this may actually prove to be useful in the turns to come. And now we'll head back down south, ready to defend our borders. The enemy can potentially attack us with quite a lot of stuff, so some potential defences on the cards here. I also need to move Paulus into a defensive position. He was moving down to the south to start a new colony in Arabia, but instead he needs to come back and defend one of the several places that these enemy armies behind our lines can now just attack in a single turn. We can't defend everything, so I'm going to have to just put him in Nova Trajana Bostra, the most important place in the area, and handily somewhere that already has the disease that his men have, so he's not going to spread illness, and see what we can do against any enemy attacks. The legacy of my late uncle hangs by a thread. It was strung up only on a few threads more, so hardly a surprise. But it is the reaction to this crisis that threatens to do more damage than anything else. First Legate Varys claims that Septimus made him the Magister Militum on his deathbed, and marches loudly back to Rome to stake that claim. With him go the veteran troops with all the experience fighting the Easterners. As such, I have sent to Rome to request that I be made First Legate. Not that I wish such a role, only that without me taking the position, the border may fall apart and crush us all along the way. I'm sure my cousin, the true Magister, as the Senate decrees, would appoint me into such a position anyway. Now my father's legacy will hang by a thread also. Let's take a look at the situation with Lazica. They've got 2 settlements nearby, both on the east end of the Black Sea, and they've also, as mentioned earlier, got our port at Trapezos under blockade. Unfortunately for them, this blockade is absolutely terrible. They have lots of light ships, and when we have all of our garrison plus the stack inside, plus a garrison navy, we actually just sink them with no problem at all. So that was surprisingly easy. We'll get our trade route back as a result. And what I'm going to do is flip reverse things by building my own fleet here to go and attack them. I may be able to raid their port settlement to the north, or even take our forces over to go and conquer it. We'll see what we can do later on with that. Now back over to Europe, where we're still monitoring what the Angles are doing. They didn't attack us, but they are just hanging around near our territory. I was still pretty far away, and it's a lot of attrition needed to get to where those armies are, and I can't even reach them this turn, so just to get near them will cost a lot of lives. But what I realised is that Gaul are right next to them with a full stack, so I asked them to join my empire, and you can see they actually are willing to consider it. We can absorb their territory into ours, which is particularly nice because that completes the province of Aquitania. Now, the reason I thought to do that at all was because I believed that when you confederated with someone, you got their military forces. So I was expecting to get a full stack right next to where the Angles' armies were as a result of doing that, but I didn't, as it turns out. And that means this was actually a bad idea, or at least a bad idea to do right now, because this means the settlement now has no garrison because it has to respawn because it switched factions, and the Angles are right next to it, and both the settlements we gained through that deal are now going to be vulnerable. So because of that, I'm going to have to take some attrition to try and protect these settlements. First, Eutropius the Younger will take the main force up north to defend one of them. The other one's too far away, so we can't do anything there. But what I could try was moving everyone else over to the west to sit on a river crossing. This worked in the past against the Alamans, where it just drew them into a battle in our favour, so it might attract the Angles to attempt to battle against us where they can't win. There's a possibility there. So we'll just do that and hope they don't go for our own settlement before we find out we've got a major battle to do, because the Sassanids move out towards Anicius the Younger, where he is positioned just off their border. The advantage is theirs because they have so many numbers, although a lot of their troops are pagan band who, while not being complete trash as we've seen before, aren't all that good either. I tried to avoid battle because in this case it would be best to not fight them and then just swoop in behind and take their settlement while they were stuck out here. Unfortunately they were able to reach us using this general with a cavalry unit to rush all the way across that region to start a battle with us there. And here we are, pretty much the same engagement with a slightly different setup, I think. And the advantage still very much in their favour, so we're going to have to fight and see what we can do. So we've just got enough time to see the start of this battle at least. The enemy formation, as you can see, is an enormous mess. They didn't form up before the battle starts like the AI usually does. So they're just going to run at us in a huge mob formation. I formed up near the red line of death, cheekily using the excuse that this was the only or flattest part of the map. The rest of it was all uphill towards the enemy's deployment zone and covered in forests as well, so I couldn't really see where the enemy were, which is further compounded by it being the sandstorm weather conditions, which reduces visibility even further. So while in the replay you can see everything, while playing I can only see these units when they're right in front of the army, so I just kind of sat there and waited for something to happen, not knowing that the enemy's formation was in a gigantic shambles. So they are starting with their attack, as you can see. They're just attacking the edge of my line with a few spearmen and some camels who got cut down by ranged fire. I can't really move, of course, as usual, because the enemy have tons of ranged units of their own who are very strong against our troops. So we just need to sit here and absorb all those arrows, force them to run out of ammunition. And while they do that, we'll wait for melee units to blob up in front of our line and then deploy our large onager against them, doing some danger close artillery fire. Once again, I'm going to be using manual fire to make sure we get only the juiciest shots and conserve our ammunition. Plus, when your battle strategy is to do absolutely nothing, you might as well do the manual fire, just so there's some gameplay for you as you do it. So there you can see we're dropping some nice shots into big crowds of enemies. Right now we're just hitting Pagan Band, which isn't going to do that much, but later we'll have better targets. And they're starting to engage across the rest of the line as well. The nice thing about them having lots of Pagan Band is they kind of buffer the good troops from actually attacking us, so their superior guys will get stuck behind the Pagan Band in these melee blobs, plus cavalry can't charge because our line is covered in the enemy's weaker infantry. And once all the blobs form up, they're going to be even better targets for us to hit with the artillery. So now we'll start blowing up their superior infantry and their decent cavalry as well, with more shots just dropping them strategically into points where the enemy are most concentrated to do maximum damage. You don't have complete control over where the shots actually go, you just get a vague circle it's going to fall into, so you can't be completely precise, and you do occasionally still hit your own men if you're not careful. But of course we'll be doing far more damage to them. We're going to be wiping out hundreds of troops, perhaps even into the thousands as the battle continues, and it is just going to continue very much as you see it here. On the flank I tried to use my cavalry to take out some of their skirmishers, but because I couldn't see anything I didn't realise they had cavalry just sitting out here as well, so they actually got caught, and that attack was overall a complete failure. But we don't necessarily need to take out the skirmishers because we're doing a good job of just absorbing their fire with the testudos. Plus the enemy's buffer troops on our front line will be blocking some of the ranged attacks as well, so that's all well and good. We'll see a tiny bit more of this battle and of course the rest of the war in the next part. Triumphantly declaring the war in the East won, Varys turned his back on a powder keg of resentment that exploded as soon as he stepped away. No longer was it his problem though, for he had a sacred mission to attend to in Rome. He left the armies weakened and his subordinates without a clear commander in the theatre. But even with these problems, they still had the thick armour and sharp swords of thousands of elite troops ready to pick up the slack. In the west, the Magister Eutropius was winning battles and winning the hearts of independent Roman territories, consolidating the power of the empire under his own brand. With subtle ambition, he carefully groomed the public's rising interest in a monarchistic leader to place himself as the only choice. Thanks everyone for watching, and thanks as always to the OfficiallyDevin patrons for funding the channel. We'll continue on with Operation Secure the East Part 2 in the next episode of Fields of Mars.